then okay, sorry. So if it causes any inconvenience to anyone, then I apologize in advance for that. Okay. So to start off with, this picture actually shows a typical white pipe systems. So what you can see inside is the alarm valves, the control valves, and for example, so there's a far end, right? You have a test inspectors test connection, which I will also cover later part of the presentation. So the alarm valves, control valves, the sprinkles, all these we have product range really reliable that we support. And of course, the others such as the piping, couplings, joints, which you will be able to get from our partner Unitrade. So all in all, I would say you can get a one-stop solution, okay, from Unitrade. This forms a good partnership between us and Unitrade. Okay, to start off with, I will kick off with our alarm valves. The very first valve, the most basic one, I will say, is our wet alarm valve. Okay.
Sorry, Kevin, I'm going to stop you here. Jason or Ruben, can you, because there's a window prompt in the screen, or is it only mine? Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's only mine. I thought it's a share.
Yeah, that one is to inform everyone there's a recording.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Kevin, you can go.
Okay, sorry. Okay, coming back. So we start off the very first basic, the wet alarm valves. Okay, wet alarm valves that activates water flow device in wet sprinkler system. So in short, I mean, when the system activates, the valves open, water flows in. With pressure, the water pressure activates whether it's a electrical or mechanical alarm device. So we have our Model E wet alarm valve, as you can see in this picture. It's up to 300 psi, and you can have an option in either red color or black color. Connection wise, we have them in groove, top, bottom. You can have them in mixed flange on the top, groove on the bottom, or you can have them in flange. But of course, flange wise, you can have them in another two options, the NC flange or the PN16 flange. Size from small start 2 inch, and you will have 2.5, 3, 4, 6 up to 6 inch. And for the trims for this wet alarm valve, we have three options: the individual part trim, pre-assembled trim, and the factory trim valve. Options to add on to the trims include such as pressure relief valves, retard chambers, test and drain, side test, and butterfly valves, as you can see at the bottom of the alarm valve as a control valve. And of course, the most important listing wise, we have definitely both UL and FM, and some other approvals such as LPCB, VDS, and CE, etc. In this picture, you will see like what I mentioned earlier, this is just another option, which is the valve in red color, the groove valve. And the trim, if you were to notice, is a different trim from the earlier picture. And this has a pressure switch on that. On the right-hand side of the figure, basically it shows the inside of the valve. You give me a minute. Okay, can you see my cursor moving? Okay, on the right-hand side on the top, figure 1 closed position. So this alarm valve, basically you have a clapper, okay, a simple clapper that currently at closed position, it sits well on the groove sits. So when the system activates, okay, water flow, basically the clapper open, okay, and the water flows through. What I will say is actually a direct, straightforward system. Okay, so after our wet alarm valves, we have with us also our deluge valves. The first deluge valve that I'll go through will be our model DDX Deluge Valve. DDX, again, is a short name for dry, deluge, external reset. Okay, so size for this valve, similar to our alarm valve, from 2-inch up to 8-inch. So of course, in between you have your 2.5, your 3, your 4, your 6. And connection-wise, you have them in groove, which in short is GWG, and you have them in flange groove, and you have them in flange. So this is both UL FM approved, and with the external reset, which I will also cover later. So this is a latching style valve, okay? It's a clapper valve. And to take note that for this 4-inch and 6-inch, the pressure rating is to 300 PSI. For 2-inch, 3-inch, and 8-inch, it is 250 PSI. And for 4-inch to 8-inch, we have them also available in stainless steel for deluge only. Okay, on the right printout, you would see basically is sharing that our this one DDX Deluge Valve, okay, can actually match with different trims to give you nice systems. So in fact, to add on, our actually one valve body, the DDX Deluge Valve, can actually match with 10 different trims variations. Take for example, the first, for deluge system. Okay, you will have the wet pilot trim, the dry pilot trim, electric actuation trim. Okay, this gives you 3 variations. Next, it is also used for our low pressure dry pipe valve. And then moving on, you will have the pre-action system. Pre-action system, we split further to 2, the single interlock and the double interlock. Single interlock, similarly to our deluge system, where you will have the wet pilot trim, dry pilot trim, and also electric. And as for double interlock, similarly, you will have 3 different types in type D trim, where the actuation is by mode of electric. Whereas we have a double interlock type F trim, where the activation is by means of electric, pneumatic. And the last will be our type PL double interlock trim, which is the pneumatic release. So all in all, this DDX Deluge Valve, it basically uses for deluge system, pre-action systems, as you can see. Now we zoom in, just like our alarm valve, we look into our DDX Deluge Valve. Okay, currently this picture that is showing is the valves at a closed position, a set position. So again, to my cursor, okay, as you will notice, like I mentioned earlier, this is a clapper valve. So the clapper currently is in closed position and is held down by a lever. Okay, this lever is in fact, or in turn, is being pressed down by this push rod at the push rod chamber. So at set closed position, water comes in from the supply, the upstream. Okay, and of course, the picture does not show the trims, etc. So basically, you will have your trims, everything, and the water pressure goes actually into the chamber, the push rod chamber inlet. That's why you will see blue, the water, okay? Blue color is in the water. So this water pressure in this push rod chamber actually compresses and pushes your push rod to the right. And that is why this push rod is holding on to this lever. And this lever is holding down the clapper in closed position. So now we visualize before I move on to the next slide. In the event of a system discharge, on the top part here, the push rod chamber outlet, okay, let's say for example, we take electric actuation. So solenoid valve opens up, okay, the water pressure is released, okay, out from here, the push rod chamber outlet. What will happen? This blue portion, the water will be released. Of course, it becomes sort of a void. Then this push rod will move to the left, okay, and then your lever will be released, and then in turns, your clapper will open up. So now let us see the next picture. Okay, like what we have mentioned exactly earlier. Now that the water pressure is being released from the push rod chamber outlet on the top here. So basically, there's no more pressure. Okay, it's void. So the push rod bounce to the left, or so-called because of a spring, as you can see. So it springs to the left. The lever is no longer being pressed down by the push rod, releases, and opens up the clapper. So now with a clapper position open, of course, the upstream water supply will run through the valve into the system. So now, after the system is discharged and water drain off everything, what you see now is totally empty. Okay, there's no water, everything. So if you notice, the clapper does not force back to original closed position. Okay, this is what we call is in a latch position. It's a latching. So basically, it's blocked by this lever here. Okay, from being back to its set position. So remember earlier we mentioned about this DDX Deluge Valve, dry deluge external reset. So it's an external reset. So if you look at our valve, which I don't have a 3D, I apologize for that, but focus on this pointer. Basically at this lever here, we have a knob outside the valve, okay, reset knob outside the valve, which you can turn, okay, which you can turn and rotate this lever to the left, allowing the clapper to force back to a closed set position. So basically you turn the knob and then the lever will move to the left to allow this clapper to close. Okay, looking finish this inside of the valve, we look at the trims and some of the components that you can find in the trims. So let's say for the first one, you can see for wet pilot on your far left. For wet pilot trims is quite straightforward. Basically, you have a wet pilot detection line, and if you look at it, it's a blue color that represents there's water inside as a wet pilot trim. So in the event of a discharge, the water in this wet pilot line releases the pressure and activates the system. So for wet pilot trim, you will find them in the deluge system and the single interlock pre-action, which is in short SIPA. On the right, we have LP actuator. Okay, so this LP actuator, where will it be found? Which trim? It will be on the dry pilot trim. So dry pilot trim, you have a deluge dry pilot, you have a single interlock dry pilot, and of course our DDX LP system. And this LP actuator, in the event of a loss of pressure, will be activated, okay, to open up and to release the system pressure. The valve will open up and activate the system. So on the third one, what you see is solenoid. And I believe when we talk about solenoid, it's very straightforward. We link them to the electric actuation. So again, you will find them in deluge, single interlock pre-action, electric trim. And of course, not to forget our double interlock pre-action for type D trim, where the actuation is by means of electric. And the fourth, you look at the most right-hand side, you will see a combination of a solenoid and the actuator. So you have electric, you have pneumatic. So this falls into our double interlock pre-action type F trim, where the mode of activation is by means of electric and pneumatic.
Kelvin, before you proceed further, I think for the benefits of some of our audience here, would you mind maybe explaining? I think a lot of them probably would not know what does it mean by single interlock and what is a double interlock. So maybe you want to explain what's that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, because sorry, I just trying to run through the range of products that we have. But to the benefit of top, like Ruben has mentioned, a quick one. So basically, we have for pre-action system, single interlock and double interlock. So basically, for single interlock, okay, by the word single interlock, all we need is one action or one incident to take place. For example, the detection. Okay, single interlock. Let's say, for example, the fire alarm or smoke detectors detects a fire. Okay, it sends an alarm to this. It sends a signal to this alarm panel. Then this alarm panel will send a signal over to activate the system. Okay, that is a single interlock. So you need one event to happen. But okay, or even for example, besides electric, just to share in detail, probably for wet pilot trim or even the dry pilot trim. So basically, when there's fire, let's say for wet pilot trim or dry pilot trim, your pilot detector bursts, either it releases the water for wet pilot trim or releases the air, drop in pressure, which will result in activation of the system. So this is a single event, single interlock pre-action. So when we talk about double interlock, you will need two events to happen. So for example, we mentioned electric, pneumatic. So for example, in the case of electric, okay, you will need two events to happen. The first will be the detection. Again, for example, a smoke detector detects a fire. Okay, it sends a signal to the control panel. Okay, your alarm panel. Nothing will happen as yet. You need a second event to happen. So let's say the sprinkler bursts. Okay, after some time the fire burns the heat and then it causes a sprinkler to burst, drop in pressure. A second signal is sent to a control panel. Now the control panel receives the second signal. Two events happen. It will then send a signal over to this solenoid to open up and activate the system. So this is two events. So we call it a double interlock. Another example, let's say we are looking at double interlock pre-action type F, where there is solenoid and the actuator. So this will be, again, two events to happen. First, smoke detection. Okay, the detection send a signal, control panel. A control panel will send a signal, open up the solenoid valve. So now this is only one event. The system will not totally discharge as yet. So what you need is the second event. So there comes in the LP actuator. So in the event of your system supervisory pressure drops, okay, it will result in the actuator to open. So this will become your second event. So with a solenoid open and the LP actuator open, then this system will then totally discharge and activate. So I hope you roughly get an idea between the single interlock and double interlock. So far, okay? Or maybe any further queries or something? Okay. Okay, probably if you have any further questions, definitely at the end we have Q&A. We can anytime touch on again. So let us continue and move on. Okay, besides the different components, actuators, solenoid valves, or something that we can find on the trims, but the common important one thing that you will find in all trims definitely you cannot miss out is the emergency pull station. So this will trip the valve anytime when it's open. Okay, we have went through the inside of the valve earlier, and as we have mentioned, just to summarize, the DDX Deluge Valve, this is a latching type of valve, okay, and we have the external reset. You need not open the valve or something to do any reset, yeah. And if you were to look at this picture on the right, okay, both the top and bottom, for maintenance wise or for inspection, all you need to do is open up the front cover. Like now, after removing the front cover, as you can see, the clapper inside, okay, whichever parts, for example, if maintenance wise, you want to replace the clapper rubber, the clapper seal, you know, or you want to just have a visual inspection. And for our system, our deluge valve, when you do inspection or maintenance, you remove the cover, you need not, okay, you need not do anything or remove to the trims. Okay, so basically just remove a cover and you do your maintenance. And for our deluge valve, one point to share is that probably for some other brands, if you were to aware that for pre-action system, we just have this DDX Deluge Valve itself. But for some other brands, they may require an additional check valve on top of this deluge valve. So probably that will be an additional cost. So that's not required for our system. So additionally, we mentioned quite a lot on electric actuation, for example, where you will have a solenoid in our standard, or rather I will say a standard solenoid that comes with an electric trim. And if in the event for certain requirement, not so common, but in the event of such requirement where you require, let's say, this explosion-proof solenoid, yes, we do have different range or other range of solenoid valves that we can offer, such as, like, for example, the explosion-proof. So basically, all you need to let us know in advance so that at least we can propose accordingly or get you the correct to your requirement, the solenoid valve, and replace with the standard solenoid valve in the electric actuation trim. Okay, this picture shows some packaging of the trims, and this relates back to our very initial slides that we mentioned. For the trims option, we have 3, if you remember. So the top left you will see are the loose trims. Okay, so they are basically loose and packed in a box. And the bottom, you have them in segmented, partial, assembled. And of course, when they are packed, it gets bulkier as compared to the loose trims. And on the far right is our third option, where it's fully assembled. So with or without control valve. And again, definitely in terms of the packaging is getting more bulkier. So probably if you have high quantity of valves, then one thing you may consider is maybe the transportation, because it's going to be bulkier as compared to, let's say, the loose trims. Okay, so with that, we touch on more or less our DDX valve, deluge valve. And for deluge valve, we actually have another range, which is what we call this model DDV Diaphragm Deluge Valve. Okay, so for model DDV, the name itself is actually in short also for Diaphragm Deluge Valve. So basically it's a diaphragm valve. So earlier, our DDX valve is a clapper style valve, and we have also for DDX diaphragm valve for the deluge system. So similarly, for deluge system, we will have the standard three trims, the electric actuation, the wet pilot, the dry pilot, and in addition, for this DDV diaphragm deluge valve, we have a dry pilot pressure regulating trim. So we'll touch on that later. And also additional interesting feature, okay, is that for this DDV diaphragm deluge valve, we can have it with a remote resetting. Okay, this model DDV diaphragm deluge valve, what's the main difference as compared to our DDX deluge valve? From this picture, I would say, if you look at it, it's a very simple, straightforward, construction. For example, in DDX, we mentioned about the inside of the valve, the clapper, the lever, the push rod, etc. But what I would say for this diaphragm deluge valve is basically is one moving part, simplified. So this one moving part, and you can see it's just all about the black color, the diaphragm. Okay, this diaphragm, nothing else. There's no lever, there's no clapper, no other moving parts. Okay, so this how this diaphragm deluge valve works. Before I go on to the next slide, just a quick one is that you will have basically this water pressure going in to this front cover. Okay, you look at the picture. I try to point the arrow. You have this front cover, and the water, and the water pressure, okay, in this front cover, the chamber, okay, compresses this diaphragm to press against the inside seat of this valve. Okay, so it blocks the flow of water into your system. So of course, to activate the system, basically you will release this water pressure in this front chamber between the cover and your diaphragm, and then this diaphragm will deform away from this inside seat of the valve, and water will be able to go through. So let us see what we have mentioned earlier. Okay, so you have your water supply, your upstream, okay, one directional. Okay, the water pressure will go through a trim and enters this front portion, which earlier I elaborated. This will be the chamber, you see that there's a swell, in this front cover, this portion. So the water pressure here will compress, okay, the diaphragm inwards towards your valve seat. So this blocks the flow of water into your system. And if you look at the picture on the right here, okay, this red arrow. So similarly, your trim, be it whichever electric actuation, wet pilot trim or dry pilot trim, upon activation, it releases the water pressure from the chamber in this front cover and diaphragm area. So without the water pressure being released, the chamber inside decompresses, and then this the diaphragm will no longer be compressed against the seat of the valve. Therefore, the water will flow through the valve and into your system. It's basically just so straightforward, I would say. Okay, so for this DDV Diaphragm Deluge Valve, the valve can be reset without removing the cover. So again, based on the earlier explanation of how it works, basically you do not even have a knob or reset knob, or less to say you need to open up the cover and you need to do any resetting. Basically, water charge in from the upstream water supply into the chamber, compresses the system, and the system is set. Upon activation, water pressure in the chamber releases, the system activate. That's it. So definitely the valve can be reset without removing the cover. The pressure for this DDV Diaphragm Deluge Valve is up to 400 psi inlet pressure. Okay, up to 400 psi. Now the option for this valve, you only have it in red. You do not like this DDX. You have it in red and black. So this you will only have it in red. And the connection, we have three options: the groove, the flange. But instead, the third option, instead of the groove flange, we have them in thread. But of course, for the threaded connection, it's only up to size 3-inch. So anything above that, for the 4-inch, 6-inch, and 8-inch, no, you will go with groove or flange. And for size, for DDX, we started from as small as 2-inch up to 8-inch. For this DDV Diaphragm Deluge Valve, we will have from 1.5 inch up to 4-inch. Trim wise, the DDX, we have three options. Remember, we have like the loose, segmented, fully assembled. So for this DDV Deluge Valve, the trim options, we only have them in one option, that is fully assembled. So we do not have them in loose. And option for the trim, basically straightforward, is just electric trim, wet trim, dry trim, and dry trim with pressure regulating. So probably a touch on for sharing the dry trim with pressure rating. Basically, you have a regulator, okay, at your trim that regulates the pressure downstream of your valve. So for example, if your upstream pressure as high as 400 incoming, you can regulate your downstream pressure to example from 20 to 200 psi for the 6-inch. And you can regulate the downstream for other sizes, will be, besides the 6-inch, will be 50 to 200 psi. Okay, looking at the trim, you'll see an electric release trim on the left, and you will see this wet release trim on your right. So let's say for a photo hunt, yeah. So what's the difference? So a quick look. Okay, electric release, we will know that you will have a solenoid. And of course, the wet release trim, you will not find a solenoid. So you can identify easily, I mean, the difference between the two trims. Now again, we have a dry release trim and the dry release trim with pressure regulating. So again, a quick look, what's the difference? Of course, both you will have the actuator, okay, but this with regulating trim, you will have a pressure regulator at the bottom part here. Okay, now we move on to this DDV Deluge Valve, remote resetting trims. So what this special feature of remote resetting allows, basically it allows the valve to be activated and reset remotely. Okay, it's suitable for horizontal and vertical installation. Similarly, it's up to 400 psi inlet pressure. So remote resetly, these trim options allow for the remote resetting operation for both ULFM or remote resetting operation with pressure regulation that will only be for FM. Okay, in both configuration, in simple, the water flows through the DDV valve when the solenoid trim is open. So the key thing is that, of course, we will have a solenoid for this remote resetting, okay, electrical. And when the solenoid closes, the valve resets and the water flow is stopped. So this solenoid is not the same as the electric activation trims, the solenoid that you find in, okay? We will be using an impulse solenoid, okay? This remote resetting will be making use of an impulse solenoid. It's not the normal solenoid that you find in the electric actuation trim. So the impulse solenoid, you send a pulse, you open the solenoid, you send a pulse, you close the solenoid, the valve resets. So that's why you can send signal to remote reset the system. So looking at the trim again, for this remote resetting and remote resetting with pressure regulating, both you will have your solenoid, and the difference is that you will have a pressure regulator for the trim with pressure regulating. Okay, we have went through with our deluge valves, the model DDX and DDV. So what you see now is a reliable PrePak system. Okay, some may call it the cabinet system. So basically, you have your valves, okay, pre-action, deluge. You have your valves and all your components, everything pre-assembled into this cabinet. As you can see from the right, you have your valves, your deluge valve, okay, for pre-action system, your control valves, your butterfly valves. On the top, you can even see the compressors, okay. You can have also, for us, we use a portal releasing panel, okay. You can't see at this picture at the moment, it's because it's black color in the front panel. Later you will see another slides that shows. So basically you have all your components and valves pre-assembled into this cabinet. Why? You just imagine this is a plug and play system. Okay, in the event of, for example, due to space constraint, okay, you put everything if you have the thing separately, you do not have space for a place to mount your compressor, your valves, your pipings, etc. So basically, you have a space constraint. You have this space. You have this cabinet system. Straight away, you put there, you plug and play, and then it's within everything constrained within this cabinet. And of course, the next is time constraint. When you want something fast, basically you transport this whole cabinet system is ready. You plug the system and use it instead of individually components, installation, everything. And this cabinet is pre-assembled at our production facility in USA and transport directly to your location. So we have UFM approvals, definitely. And this is, you have the option. Of course, we have all the components, but still you have the option whether if you want to choose with compressors, with tank or without tank. And this, you can also choose whether if you would want the option of a releasing control panel. So still you can have some configurations to what you require. And this cabinet is also such that if you look through on the top, you can see two hooks. So it's also easy for your transportation. Basically, this system, they are based on two pressure ratings, the 250 psi and 300 psi. So earlier we mentioned about this control panel. We try to go to the next slide. Okay. From this picture, probably you will see more clearer. You will see there's this PFC series. I'm not sure if the picture is too small or the wording. This will be your releasing control panel for your pre-action system, for example. But this slide itself is actually to show that in the event if other than using the compressor for compressed air, we have the option also where we work closely with a South-Tech N2 Blast for the nitrogen generator. So if you require this to use of nitrogen instead of compressed air, because compressed air sometimes with metal pipings, you may have a concern of corrosion. So even if you were to go with a nitrogen option, you can still see everything compact and pre-assembled, even a cylinder right behind, as you can see. So this is also one option that we can also offer for the PrePak cabinet system. Okay, take a breather. We have so far gone through the valves, the wet alarm valves, the deluge valve, our DDX dry deluge external reset valve. We also gone through our diaphragm DDV Deluge Valve. So now we will touch on some of the accessories that that can work together with the valves. Okay, the first accessory, we have our own model QRM2 air compressor. Okay, this is we have them in both options, with tank or tankless. There's a tank mounted. Okay, not to be confused. This compressor, they are riser mounted or wall mounted. You have a bracket for wall mount. So they are riser mounted. Okay, it's compact. It's with tank or without tank. You see the first picture. You have a small tank below, whereas you see the right hand side, the second one is a tankless. Okay, So you have an option of with tank or without tank. It's a riser mounted compressor. You look at the table below, it's actually a extraction table A from our bulletin. So for our compressor, if you were to look into our bulletin, we actually have some guidelines. But okay, before we even go to this guideline, just to share, probably you may have some query like when to use tank or when without tank. It's a few consideration, I would say. The first consideration, of course, we normally will recommend the use of tank because of a short cycling concern. Short cycling is where, like, if in the event you have a tank, let's say for example, you have a tank, the very first thing is your compressor will switch on, fills up the tank first. So your tank is filled up with the air. In the event of your system leaks or the pressure drops, the first thing it will take air from the compressor tank, the tank. Okay, when the tank, the air in the tank depletes to a certain level, then your compressor kicks in and pumps up the tank. So whenever there's a leak, whenever there's a drop in the air, it will always take the source of air from the tank first. And when the tank depletes, it will then, the compressor kicks in to fill up the tank. So imagine now without the tank, okay? Whenever here and there, there's a drop in pressure or leak, your compressor will turn on, kicks in, pump the air. So when it fills up, it stops. But whenever it drops again, there's a leak again, the compressor will turn on again. So there is chances of the compressor being on, off, on, off. So this short cycling will, in a way, affect the lifespan of the compressor. So this is one consideration. Another consideration could be if you were to use one compressor, for example, to share maybe 3 pre-action systems. So for sharing system, then you will have to go with also this tank mounted. Yes? Sorry, is there any question or something? Okay. Yeah, I think someone just on the microphone. Okay, sorry.
I think it's,
Hello? Yeah.
I think it's misclick. You may proceed.
Okay, never mind.
Ruben, can you mute? I think you can mute the person.
Sorry, I can mute the person. Sorry, I'm not familiar.
No. You can proceed. I think Ruben can mute the person.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, so like I mentioned, there are the few considerations that you may consider while using a tank and versus a non-tankless option. So coming back to our table A, this basically gives you a guide to size up your system. Okay, so if you look at NFPA, they will talk about, they'll mention on this 30-minute view, and basically we have 3 sizes for compressor range. We have the half HP.
Sorry, Mr. Kevin. Just hold for a while. The participant name of Miss or Mr. Su Kim, can you mute yourself? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Su Kim. Mr. Kevin, I think you may proceed. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, you may proceed.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Caused an echo just now. Okay. Okay, our compressor has 3 sizes. The quarter HP, half HP motor, and is 1 HP. So let's take, for example, you have your system sizing, for example, your pipe total pipe volume. Okay, you have calculated out whether it's in gallons or in liters. Okay, let's say we take a random number like your total pipe volume is you require is 1,000 liters. Okay, so with this table, and of course you need to know which pre-action system you are using. Let's say, for example, this single interlock. For our single interlock pre-action, this supervisory pressure will be at 7 to 10 psi. So you look at this column 3, okay, column 3, whether it's based on 10 psi, and you look downwards. For our compressor hertz, we use, I think in Singapore and Malaysia, we'll be using the 50 hertz. So for 1,000 liters, you will be reading this 1/4 HP, because the limitation up to 1,870 liters. Okay, so let's say if your total pipe volume is 2,000, then you will not be able to use this 1/4 HP. You will then need to go to next this half HP, which limitation up to 4,016. Okay, so for single interlock, we can refer to this column 3 based on 10 psi. So on our right side, we have also based on 20 psi. This 20 psi will be, for example, our double interlock. Okay, for double interlock, of course, you can have some range for the supervisory pressure depending on your design. And I remember is that you can go up to the maximum of maybe even 23 psi. But of course, we will not have really a table where you have every single psi, 10 psi, 11 psi, 12 psi. So we have 20 psi. You can do estimation. Okay, so for double interlock, you can refer to this column to do a sizing, and the most right, second most right column, you also can have based on 40 psi. 40 psi, I believe if some of you are familiar with some other brands, they basically base just on this 40 psi. Okay, so probably a disadvantage if you just purely based on 40 psi is that you could have a chance of probably oversizing. Okay, oversizing, for example, just to explain what I mean by that, if you were to, let's say, coming back using a single interlock pre-action, your supervisory air pressure you requires 10 psi, correct? So let's say we talked about earlier, we talked about, oh, my total system pipe volume 1,000 liters. So we refer to 10 psi. Okay, so 1,000 liters, you force reading this 1/4 HP. Okay, fine. But let's say if you only have reference to 40 psi, your 1,000 liters 1/4 HP, no, you are above the limit 413. Even you go to a next half HP, 799, you are still above. So you will go for a 1 HP compressor. So imagine if you base on 40 psi, where your supervisory air pressure for single interlock is actually you can use it at 10 psi, your compressor end up you are actually going for a 1 HP compressor as compared to you can actually use a 1/4 HP compressor. That is up 2 size. So I hope this table is useful where you all do your sizing for our compressors. Okay, we move on to our next accessories, which is our model TD test and drain valves. So earlier, we look at our basic sprinkler pictures. We have the far end, the so-called inspector test connection. So this will be the valves that you can use. And remember, if I never remember wrongly, I think quite commonly is that a lot of people will just use the normal ball valve to mimic the flow, okay? But with our this model TD test and drain valves, basically this is a UL FM approved, okay? For projects, FM projects, normally they will require you to use this, and also some stringent projects that we come across, probably if the consultants or something that are aware of such, they would also prefer you to go with this. So basically we have this in size 1 inch, 1.25, and 2 inch. And the available K factors we have range from 2.8 to 16.8. So you will think is that, oh, what if the sprinkler I'm using is K22, for example, but your highest is only 16.8. Okay, if you look at the bulletin, there's a portion that mentions, in short, if you are using K factor, for example, K22, you can go with our maximum 16.8. Is fine. Because if 16.8, you achieve the result, then definitely with a bigger K, your actual K22 is fine. Okay, because not forgetting, if in your piping, you may have two different size of sprinkler, let's say, for example, you have K8 sprinklers and you also have K5.6 sprinklers. So you will have to base on the smaller. So it's the same thing. Because if K5.6, you achieve your result, then with a bigger flow K8, then it's okay. So coming back again, if you say, oh, I have an N25, K25 sprinkler, you can still go with our maximum 16.8. And for this valve, we have two types of threaded connection, MPT and ISO. And for this 1/4 and 2 inch, you can have them in groove. Okay. And some additional options is that you can have a pressure relief kit to come together with this test and drain valve. Look at the bottom picture over here. I get my cursor over. Okay, so basically this is a tri-position valve. Okay, where you have a test, you have this drain, and you have an off. So when you are doing a test, you will move the lever to the test position. Okay, it will go to the required K value, which you'll be using accordingly. And when you are draining, then of course you put it to the drain. It will goes back to the drain option to drain off your water, everything. And when you are not doing testing nor draining, you will put it to this off position. And looking at this cursor, just to take note also, this test and drain valve already incorporated a side glass. You look at this round thing here, it already have a side glass. So you do not need to have a separate side glass or a piece. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, we have also our air vent and air release valve. Our air vent we have in our model AAV, automatic air vent. This is of stainless steel construction. Frankly speaking, it will be more costlier. Okay, we have two options, 175 psi or 300 psi. So this air vent is actually designed to reduce the amount of trapped air in a wet sprinkler system. Yeah, this is to reduce the amount of the trapped air because you have water, wet system, you have water, and your pipe, let's say, is a metal. So with some trapped air, the oxygen, it will affect the internal, it may cause some corrosions, internal corrosions. Okay, so besides this option, we have another option, which is the model REL 9712 air release valve. Okay, this of course will be more cost effective because it's not made of stainless steel construction. So this is made of ductile iron body, but we only have in one pressure, which is 200 psi, and this is FM approved. And we have 3 different sizes: the ½ inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch. Okay, in fact, for reliable accessories, we really have quite a wide range, and it's really difficult for me, in short, to really go and zoom into every particular one. But just a quick one to run through, like some common one. Okay, I'm circling this cylinder, you call it a cylinder or something. This is actually our retard chamber, okay, stainless steel. And retard chamber, basically, you can add on to the trims, which we earlier mentioned, for wet alarm valve, for example, to avoid the false alarm. Okay, because in your wet piping system, there could be water hammer, there could be some pressure surge that could trigger the false alarm of mechanical gong. So this is installed in between the mechanical gong and your valve. So when there's always some pressure surge or water hammering, the water will have to fill up this retard chamber first before it reaches the water alarm gong. But of course, if the system is activated, then definitely water will slowly fill up this whole retard chamber and goes to your water alarm gong and sounds the gong. And we also have our pressure gauges. Okay, this that I'm circling now, this will be the AMD. It's an air maintenance device. This will work with our compressor, which I shared earlier. So from your compressor, you go into your so-called piping system, the supervisory air. This will regulate, maintain your air pressure. Okay, let's say if for single interlock, then you will bring it down to 10 psi. So we have really quite some accessories that I can't really go in detail for everyone, but just to share with you. So I mean, if along the way you come across, can definitely check with Ruben or with me. Okay, with that, the valves we have gone through, the valve accessories we have also gone through, and we will come into our last part, which is our system components. Okay, so this shows different logos, different other brands that we actually work with. As you can see, for example, I mentioned earlier for nitrogen Softec systems, our pressure switch, we do uses Portal, and we also uses a system sensor, for example, for the electrical water flow detectors, etc. So basically, we have a lot of brands that Reliable actually work with. The first one we look at will be, for example, we do have also our flexible sprinkler hose. We have it in braided, unbraided, but to take note for this only braided that we have for FM approval. Okay, lengthwise we have from 700 to 1008 mm. To be precise, it's actually 0.7 meter. We have it in 1 meter. We have it in 1.2, 1.5, and 1.8. Okay, so inlet will be 25 mm and 32, and outlet will be basically ½ inch and 3/4 inch. So on the top part, this box here, basically a standard package. You will have your grip bracket, your center bracket, your outlet inlet nipple, and your stop bar. And the rest of the table shows some other loose accessories, like for example, stop bar, we have different length. So to cater to your needs separately, you can order. Next, we have butterfly valves, ULFM approved butterfly valves. It's gear actuated, and it comes with temper switch. So good to use for control valves, for your alarm valves, deluge valves, supervisory valves that require temper switch. pressure will be at 300 psi working pressure, and we have them in groove and wafer. So the wafer one will be used for together with the flanges. So the groove will use with the groove, and they are available in size 2-inch to 12-inch. Okay, after butterfly valve, we also have in our range the OS and Y gate valves. Okay, similarly, ULFM approved. Okay, we have them in flange, groove, flange, groove. Okay, pressure-wise, same, 300 psi working pressure, size 2-inch, 12-inch. But separately for OS and Y gate valve, we have another range which we call the large size valve. Okay, this will be for size 14-inch up to size 24-inch. So it's actually really quite huge. And for the flanges, again, we have the option of PN16 and NC. And for temper switch, unlike the butterfly valve, we do have, but it will be separate. You have to order separately. Follow on, we have also our flange check valve, ULFM approved, 300 psi working pressure, size 2-inch to 12-inch. Okay, and flanges same. We have both option PN16 and NC. Okay, earlier we are talking about the flange check valve. For the groove check valve, we have two options. The first one on the top in red color is a model REL 50GG swing check valve. Okay, it's ULFM approved, up to 365 psi working pressure, and then it's available in size 2-inch to 12-inch. On the bottom is a black color model G swing check valve. Okay, this available size is 2-inch up to 10-inch. Okay, if you have anything or rather slightly more than that, 12-inch, you will have to go with the above model in red color. So for this model G, also to take note, for size 1.5-inch, 2-inch, and 10-inch, these three sizes, they are 300 psi. The rest falls under 250 psi. So which valve to use? Of course, probably number one, color, the black or red, does it matter? The next, the pressure. If you're looking at higher pressure, definitely you will go with the red one, which is 365. Yeah, so we have a different range to cater. But if you have a country of origin restriction, then probably you will go with the black one, because the black one below model G is made in USA. Okay, next we have our strainer, Y strainer. This is only listed with UL. So strainers, no FM. Okay, and pressure-wise, same as other valves, 300 psi. Size-wise, 2-inch up to 12-inch. Option of connection in flange, groove, and flange groove. Okay, next, this is our NRS gate valves, which we call these non-rising stem gate valves. Okay, most of the time or so far I've encountered, these valves are basically, they are buried underground. Okay, we have them in flange. Okay, and it's 300 psi working pressure, size 2-inch to 12-inch. But again, we have extended range of 14-inch to 24-inch. So as mentioned earlier, this is normally the valves, they are buried underground, and you will match them with the so-called post indicator. So the post indicator allows you to have this visual that you can see this valve that is buried underground is open or closed. okay? And we have them in a vertical post and also a wall post. Okay, next, flow meters. We have two types. The first type on the top, you look at it, is our Rasco proving pipe. Okay, this Rasco proving pipe is to measure the hazard classification, for example, OH1, OH2, OH3. And this is, we have this only in one size, okay, which is a 3-inch. And you can have them in mill thread, BSPT, or groove connection. This is LPCB approved. So I'm not sure if you may have come across some other local brands or something that has no approval. Then of course, in terms of competitiveness, you may not be comparing apple to apple. And one interesting thing is that for this proving pipe, as you can see, this one proving pipe itself, okay, it allows you to measure all the classification, OH1, OH2, and OH3. But some other brands, if you have come across, okay, probably if you were to say, okay, I want to have a measurement for OH2, you purchase the one that allows you to measure OH2. But if you say that, oh, I changed, I want to measure OH3, you will need to purchase separately another one, okay, to measure the OH3. Meaning is that some feedback from our clients is that what's good about ours, because they keep inventory stocks. So basically they just keep this one. They need not keep different stocks for the different OH. OH1, you keep one stock, OH2, you keep another stock, sort of things. Next, the below flow meter is a Micon flow meter. This flow meter is more of precise measurement. So the above, we are talking about the measurement of a hazard classification, okay? This allows you to measure more specific, from 75 to 38,000 LPM. So this we will have them in different sizing, from 2-inch up to 12-inch. So again, it depends on what is your requirement, the usage, then we can of course propose accordingly. But for this Micon flow meter, is only in groove connection, okay? And one important thing is that if you have a FM requirement, then we will go with the Micon flow meter, as it is FM approved. Okay, Softec N2 blast system. I briefly had mentioned earlier with our cabinet system, remember? So we actually also work with Softec, I mean, one of the world leader in nitrogen generation technology. Basically, the system introduces 98+% of pure nitrogen into your dry pipe pre-action system. Okay, so in doing so, basically the oxygen, which is a key contributor to corrosion, is displaced from the piping, okay, through their auto purge system. So this remove this oxygen and help to prevent, or it gives you low corrosion. So with low corrosion, we can have some benefits like lesser chance of leak, definitely. And with this lesser chance of leakages, you will reduce your maintenance cost saving. And with lesser chance of leak, it will also means less business interruption. Okay, for people who are bidding for jobs, reduction in maintenance cost, it can also help you to be more competitive. Yeah. Okay, system sensor for the electrical portion, the water flow detectors, the water flow, the flow switches, some calls it, the pressure switches, temper switch for OS and Y gate valves. Remember earlier mentioned that for OS and Y gate valve, the temper switch you have to order separately, unlike the butterfly valve. So for example, we have in system sensor the temper switch for our OS and Y gate valve. We have them in standard, explosion proof, and all these approvals, the standard UL FM approvals. Okay, so these are all the electrical switches that we have with system sensor. And of course, besides system sensor, we do have also our portal, releasing control panel, which I earlier mentioned for pre-action systems. Similarly to our system sensor, you have pressure switches, you have temper switches, which also can use with our OS and Y gate valves. And similarly, you will have the approvals UL listed, FM approved. Okay. So with this, finally, this is the end of my presentation. I know it's a bit draggy. I still hope I have roughly given you some idea from the valves that we have, alarm valves, deluge valve, the valve accessories, okay, and the system components that we have. And also, of course, in between, if there's some explanation on some system, I hope it's also helpful to you in any way. With that, I will end my presentation, and it's time for question.
Yeah, anyone have the question, you can put in the chat box, or you may on your mic and put your question to Mr. Kevin.
Okay, Jason, just to touch on,
yes,
just like our previous session, remember about this anniversary
Gold coin.
coin? Yeah, the gold coin.
Yeah.
So similarly, we will have the top 5 question. I mean, not top 5 question, as in the first 5 question. Who ask us question, you know, then we will have this sent over to you, this gold coin.
Yeah, sure. Anyone looking for, I mean, if interested on this gold coin, you may ask some question that might help us to get more knowledge on the product. Anyone? Any question from the floor? So far, no question yet. Maybe they're still recalling on all the things that Mr. Kevin shared with us.
Yeah.
Still digesting. Or Ruben, you may have any things that the participant might want to know. You want to ask something?
Kevin, maybe for the benefits of our audience, we know that the sprinklers are made in the USA. What about this alarm deluge or whatever system components? They mainly made in USA or they came from other sources?
Okay. Yes, the sprinklers, they are mainly from USA. For the valves, earlier I mentioned the key component valves, such as our deluge valves, alarm valves. They are also made in USA. But some system components, like we have seen in these butterfly valves, OS and Y gate valves, all these, they will be from China, country of origin. Yep.
Yeah, we have started to have some question already. Okay, I will pick the first one from Mubin Zahidi. Okay, the question is, normally for deluge system, is it your site can provide person to do testing and commissioning at site? Because different brand deluge, their way to operate also different. So this is the question from Mubin Zahidi. Mr. Kevin?
Okay, for this, having a person over for testing and commissioning, right?
Yeah.
Okay. To my best understanding, I think we have mentioned earlier before, we are a manufacturer and supplier. Of course, we work with contractors, installers, for example. Definitely, of course, we will have instruction on installation. We can sort of train or go through with the contractors. But personally wise, for us to go down and do testing and commissioning, not that I come across of, but probably Terence, would you be able to share any experience on this?
The thing is that, as Kevin has mentioned, we are based in Singapore, and that is the reason we work with distributors and we do have the presence in the particular countries. So to answer this question, for testing and commissioning, I wouldn't say that the methodology or the way they know how to do this is very different from other brands. Of course, the step will be different, our components will be different, but overall the sequence will probably the same. And what we usually would advise our customers is that they can refer to our O&M manual that it can be easily found in our website. And from there, you just show the step-by-step instructions for you to do a resetting of the deluge valve or the PSF valve, whatever you are using. And from there, of course, I think Ruben, who is based in Malaysia, he's a very technical inclined person. I'm sure that he will offer some sort of assistance as well. Hopefully that answers your question. Yep.
Yeah, I think basically our site here will support on this. I mean, other than the manual given from the website, and then our site, Unitrade here also will have Ruben to assist if there's any issue there. So I think we answered the question of Mubin Zahidi. So I think we move on to the next question. Okay, the second question will be from Zafri. How many radius sizes for steel braided short elbow for defense clearance? This item ready stock in Malaysia, and what type of the bracket they use? Mr. Kevin?
Yeah.
Or Terence, you want to answer? Ruben, can I hear you?
Yeah. I think it's
Ruben, you are saying something?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Kevin, can you want me to repeat the question?
Sorry, hold on. I think is Terence mute?
I think it's asking for probably your elbows come with how many radius, whatever. The elbows instead of the straight discharge nipple, sometimes they will prefer like an elbow go straight to your sprinklers. So what is the different type of radius?
Sorry, I mean, sorry, do you all hear actually Terence speaking earlier? Because he was actually speaking, but I think I can't hear him.
I'm sorry, I was disconnected just now.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Because I thought Terence was speaking earlier. Yeah. So probably Terence, you can maybe just repeat a little bit on this. Terence, I think you are disconnected.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, now here, yes.
I'm not too sure why only my internet connection has this problem. Kevin, you are all right throughout the whole session, and the moment I start to speak, and you try to cut me off.
Really?
Okay. Okay. I repeat again. I mean, for festival hosts, we do carry, we do have our brands, quite Rasco. In Malaysia, I believe Unitrade, you guys are carrying another brand. There is Reflex. but in principle, I think they work quite similar. To answer the question about how many bands, that's depend on the length of the flexible hose. Yeah, and I think the question is asking how many radius size for steel. How many radius size for steel bladed short elbow? Okay, I think this is for the for installation for a very constrained ceiling, I believe. Ruben, do you want to answer this? I think it's more appropriate for you to advise this, since you are selling
the question is asking was the elbows.
Yeah.
Instead of the straight discharge nipper,
yep.
For reliable, when you provide the elbow, is it just a standard size elbow? Is that a short radius or long radius elbow?
Do you want me to answer this for
the reliable side? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we do have two types of elbow. One is what we call a short elbow, and the other one is a long elbow. I see if I can pull out something to show it to you.
Terence, I can put up the elbow 90-degree elbow radius reducer.
You pull up the product brochures and bracketry.
Yeah. I can show them now. You see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, on the bottom, you will see a 90-degree elbow reducer. I think if they are mentioning on this, and you also have a right-hand long radius reducer. So I think if they are talking about the short one, likely will be this 90-degree elbow reducer. Am I right? Correct? I think the line is... Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So the screen you are looking at this Rasco flat flexible hose, right? So can I say this will be the information. Maybe I will enlarge it a bit. Sorry,
Yeah.
Okay. Do you all see more clearly? This 90-degree elbow reducer, 15 by 100, and also 15 by 110 and 15 by 115 mm. This will be the short reducer, I believe, because we have another one is a long radius reducer. So probably this answers the question of this.
I'm actually referring to the other brochures that have showed the installation.
Sorry?
We have another brochures that just show the installation.
Oh.
Yes, this
is actually the same one.
Okay, okay.
Just that I show.
Okay.
Yeah, because I show them the elbow, the information. I think they're asking the information on the elbow dimension or something, if I'm not wrong. Do we answer them? Example like this. This is a long radius. Example.
Yeah, I think that's what it's looking for.
Yeah. Okay.
Besides, let me add a little bit more info to Zafri, because he's asking whether do we carry stock for reliable flexible hose. Zafri, for your information, Unitrade, we are distributor for the RealFlex brand flexible hose. So it's from China. So we keep stock for the different length from 700 mm to 1.8 meters. But of course, if there's a project specifically asked for this product made in USA or coming from USA, then of course we'll be willing, to work with Reliable to supply you this specifically the reliable flexible hose.
Ruben, sorry, I'm going to stop you there. For Rasco Flex, the flexible hose, these are made in South Korea, not USA.
Oh,
yeah.
South Korea. But I think no, they are sometimes the contractor consultant, they are looking for manufacturer from the brand is from USA.
Okay.
It can be manufacturer from China, doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I think in this case we'll start with RealFlex because it's a company in China. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yep.
To answer your question on the stock, we do keep some stock in Singapore on the common size. When I say common size, basically these are about 1 meter. I think it's the most usually used, and probably 1.2 meter, both braided and unbraided. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's some question also from Mr. Raymond He. For the flexible sprinkler, can you brief more on the proper installation on plaster ceiling? Terence or Mr. Kevin? Do you all want to further elaborate more on this?
Maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
I need to share the screen. Allow me to share the screen.
Yes, you can
I think
share.
you are free to share.
Yeah, it's free to share.
Okay, for flexible hose, one thing you need to take note of is the step. I believe you can see my cursor, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, can.
And when we talk about side bracket, then we need to know what kind of sealing grip we are using, right? So what our standard kit, right? When I talk about kit, it comes with everything they needed to do the installation, which include the flexible hose, right? The side bracket, the center bracket, right? The center bar, yeah. This everything will make up the kit. So to answer your question, plaster ceiling. When you come to plaster ceiling, then you need to understand, you need to know, right, what kind of ceiling grips you are using for the plaster ceiling. So in this, in this diagram or in this picture, I just show you a C channel grip. So for this particular kind of grip, we will use what we call the plaster end bracket short type. Right? We have two versions. One is short and one is long. Right? Long depending again, if you want to raise up the bar, right? Due to some limitations or the kind of sprinklers you're going to use in this particular installation, then you probably use the long one. If not, then the standard one will be the one. I'm not saying that all the ceiling grip, plaster ceiling will use this kind of C-channel ceiling grip. There could be other form, right? It could be using a head channel, right, to hold the plaster ceiling, right? If this is the case, then we have to use the head channel bracket. So to get back to the question again, it all depends on the kind of ceiling grip you're using. But if you're talking about the typical removable ceiling, right? This is the type of bracket we normally can be used. Not an issue. I mean, we supply this day in, day out. Okay. So in order for us to supply you the right bracket, you need to let us know what kind of ceiling bracket you are using, not the site using. And probably we can advise you. If not, typically this will be what we will supply. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that even for cluster sealing, they will not be using this kind of sealing grip, right? It's something that the flat bracket can secure onto, then it works as well. Because we do supply the standard kit for some of the cluster sealing projects, and we got no negative feedback from our customers. They didn't ask us to change the flat bracket, so I guess that works well with them, right? So I hope that answer your question.
Yeah, thank you, Terence. I think more or less the question been answered. So let us move forward to the other question. Let me check. Sorry. Okay, there's one more question from Sarawana Kumar. Okay, what are those countries that are under license to produce your products, and which are those products? For example, if country of origin is US, then what is the under licensed country involved? So the comparability to meet the requirement of the standards.
Okay, I think a simple way to answer this is the if your customer is asking for COO, the country of origin, then what we need to advise is the country that make this product. Quite simple. So if the spec doesn't ask for COO, or just say that probably what the brand must be made in must be from US make or US manufacturers. If they ask for country of origin, then that's fine. But the moment where they ask for country of origin, then we have to specify that. For example, our OS and Y gate valve, right? Although it's a reliable brand, it's US manufacturer brand, but we have to specify that the COO for this valve is made in China, right? That is the way that we usually advise. I hope this answers your question as well.
Okay, thank you, Terence. Okay, let me check. Is there any other question from the floor? So far, there's one more. Okay. One more question from Mubin Zahidi. For flexible sprinkler, do you have specific bracket for clean room? Because normally for clean room, there's no ceiling T on top of the roof. If not, we need to bend the bracket before proceed to install. Or do you have any sample flexible hose that been installed for clean room?
Okay.
That's the question.
Yep. Unfortunately, at this moment of time, our flexible hose are not really used for clean room applications. Yeah, these are mostly for the commercial applications. Ruben, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Refax has clean room brackets or kits. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just provide some information for Mobin and for the rest. Yes, for our RealFlex flexible hose, besides the commercial type, we also have this basically the flexible hose for clean room application. So these are FM approved, all right? For Malaysia, we have done a few jobs for the Infineon Malacca, even for Penang. I think we have a TPC, AVX TPC. Those are the semiconductor jobs there, mainly for the clean room application. So yes, we can provide you if you have semiconductor jobs or electronic jobs for clean room application. We'll be glad to work with you. So the discharge, basically, I think the discharge nipple instead of a straight one, where you have a square bar, it basically the discharge nipple has a like a welded teeth that will fit nicely onto the what you call the cross or the grid there. So it just sit nicely there, and then protrude out through that what you call the grid there, and you can install the sprinklers. Okay.
Yeah, so I think Mr. Ruben and Terence also have answered the question. Any more question from the floor?
There's one
So
from
there's
Ryan. Valve stock ready? Are they ready available in Singapore? If not, what is the lead time regarding your valve stock?
on the valve.
Sorry.
Okay, there's one question. Valve stock readily available in Singapore? If not, please provide to relate. Okay, I believe we have I will call this a safety net. All right, the first safety net, of course, is stock kept by Unitrade in Malaysia. All right, I believe they do keep a substantial stock for the valves. Not all the stock. The valves I'm talking here mainly the alarm valves, probably the PSM deluge valve and things like that. But if you are talking about system component valves like OS and Y gate valves, butterfly valves, I don't think Unitrades are keeping stock at the moment. But in Singapore we are keeping this in Singapore. The stock level, I mean, yeah, this is a very common question. We get this every day. People will just ask, how much stock we keep and things like that. Just to let you know, we in Singapore, the warehouse we have in Singapore is actually to support the region, basically the Southeast Asia or even as far as the North Asia. It really depends on demands. All right, it's the demand and supply. So today we might have 10, and the next day we might have 0, or even to negative domain. So it fluctuates along the time. All right. So in a very standard way of answering our customers, usually say that if we have stock, okay, fine. If not, then typically it takes about 10 to 12 weeks. Yeah. So with that in mind, probably you can do your planning. For those contractors, you can do your planning. Just take it 12 weeks from whatever time frame you're looking at, and buffer it in your project schedule. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Terence. Okay, thank you, Terence, for the question, for the answer. So I think, is there any more question from the floor? Or Ruben, you have anything to share?
I think we still have one more gold-plated coin available for grab. So kindly please post a question. Otherwise, you're going to wait another 100 years for this gold-plated coin. All right. So not many of us are live 100 years, right?
Yeah.
We will allow for one more question before we end the session, right? Okay.
Just a disclaimer to make. Well, we don't call this gold coin. We call it a challenge coin. So I don't want whoever get this and they say it's not a gold coin, it's not a high gold, and then but this is actually a gold painted coin, and we call it a challenge coin. All right, it's not really a pure coin. We're going to give, but this is a very exclusive coin that we actually keep. Ruben mentioned, we do it for 100 years celebration. I'm not saying that we're going to do it only 100 years later on, but probably I don't know. I can't tell you when we're going to do this again. But these are all limited edition. Grab it while it lasts. Yeah.
Okay, I saw one question again from Mr. Mubin again. For alarm check valve, inside they got a clapper. So by right, if clapper broken or damaged, do you separate the component or need to buy one set of the check valve?
Okay, for this, we do have, because like I mentioned earlier, for maintenance wise example, so therefore, of course, you can do replacement of the clapper seal itself. So we have replacement parts, list of replacement parts for you, even the seal, etc. So let's say if you're talking about the broken clapper, then what I would suggest would be this clapper assembly for the replacement. And you need not say buy again the whole valve. Yep.
Yeah. So there's possible to get a component,
Yes, you
right?
have a replacement parts. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. There's one more souvenir. So any question from the floor to grab this very special souvenir? Let me check. Okay, there's one more question from Saravana Kumar. Okay, cases of gate valve crack due to high pressure. Have you encountered such scenario? Most cases due to what and how you resolve this issue? If in case due to manufacturing reason, and how about the damage claim from client? Mr. Kelvin?
Cases of gate valve crack due to
Due to
high
high
pressure.
pressure. Yeah. Have you encountered this kind of scenario before?
I mean, for me personally, means it's over pressured. But for me, I don't think I've encountered such situation. Terence, have you encountered such situation where what over pressure that caused a gate valve to crack?
First of all, we have to let you know that the valves itself is the pressure rating for the valve is 300 psi, and when I say 300 psi, that is the working pressure. And for the tested pressure, usually it'll go much way beyond that. I will probably say like 500 psi or more. That this will be tested in the factory before we send out to customers. All right. I mean, we've reliable for what 6 over years. I don't really see this kind of problems. If I can recall, probably maybe the most 1 or 2 cases that we got feedback from customers. And when we conduct an investigation, usually it's due to the wrong installation method that applied to the valve. Or, to be honest, I see more on the butterfly valve, but the OS and give valves really is very seldom we see this problem. Just on the butterfly valves, just to share with you, we have seen that the seat is not able to close properly. A lot of times it's because of there will be sometimes it depends on the quality of the water supply. There are impurities, there are debris that they rush through the go through the valve. And when you close the valve, the time you actually clear some of the debris and it's actually damage on the seat itself. So that is where the leaking start for, where the seat has been damaged. In terms, if you ask me if it's caused by high pressure, like I mentioned, it's already 300 psi, which is very, very high. I'm not saying that there won't be any application higher than 300 psi, but in terms of fire protection, usually unless you are pouring very near to the fire pumps, where you experience more high pressure. But if you're talking about normal surge, normal spike, water pressure spike, I think that should be able to mitigate by the valve itself, because I think the valve already tested much higher, even more than that is from my experience. Hope that helps answer your question. But of course, I think your second part of the question is about the warranty. Of course, if it's within 1 year, and it's really found to be a manufacturer defect, of course we will know. We are more than happy to have this.
Okay, thank you, Terence. I think Okay, there's one more question. For double interlock pre-action valve, normally need to do the design with the calculation. Does Reliable provide this service? Mr. Kevin?
I think Terence is offline again because he's already
Yeah.
speaking. Terence, I think you're
yeah.
offline again.
Kevin, you want to answer that question?
Or
answer.
for
Can you hear me again?
can hear.
Okay. As Kevin has mentioned, or I've mentioned this during my last presentation, we are manufacturers. We are not engineering company. We can give technical advice, but when it comes to design and calculation, we don't really do that. One is that we don't have the to be honest, we don't have the license. I mean, yeah, quote unquote, license to do this because although we have a technical team and they are trained with this, but usually this one we can teach our customers to how to come up with the calculation, but we don't do design and do the calculation for customers. Yeah. In fact, I mean, I have shared with you the formula, the golden formula for whenever come to do this kind of hydraulic calculation is fairly quite simple. Or if you have the software, I mean, that is quite simple as well. You just plug in all the data into the system or software. You actually help you to work out. Yeah. So double interlock and single interlock, I think they are pretty much the same. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question as well.
So in short, the Reliable site can provide the software for us to insert all the data, then get out the calculation, right?
No. I mean, we don't provide software. Yeah, this is a normal sprinkler software you can use. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Noted. So any question from the floor? Or Ruben, you have anything to follow? I mean to share?
I think so far we are good. So if there's no more questions, or if you have any question in the future, all right, you can contact our salespeople. Okay, all our salespeople, or you can contact directly to me. All right, for any question you have regarding the reliable sprinklers or the valves. Okay, so we are willing to work with you and to support you for any technical question that you have. All right. Other than that, before that, I think I just want to also let you know, I think this is our 5th series of the webinar that we are doing. Previous 4, we have done the flexible hose, even the introduction to reliable sprinklers. You can follow our recorded video on our Facebook or even YouTube. So kindly, if you want to know more about our previous webinars, so you can always visit there. All right. Other than that, I think I thank you everyone for your time to participate in this webinar. So remember to stay safe, and we will see you again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, Ruben, I think just now the people who ask question, we need the details from them, right?
Yeah, you will take down their name.
Yeah.
Because from there I can trace back to their email.
Oh, okay. Then should be okay. Then thanks everyone.
You can actually save the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a long. Can you copy and paste?
Thank you. think most of them are leaving already. So thank you, Mr. Kevin and
Hey,
Mr.
sure.
Terence.
Thank you too.
I think that's all
Thank
for
you, Mr.
today
Kevin.
already.
So Jason, how many participants do we have today?
Oh, total I see the peak is at 80 something, 84 or 85.
Oh,
Okay.
oh 84, 85.
Quite stagnant for the number since starting. I think until to the Q&A section also remain 80, 84, 82, 83. So I think quite a good turnout for this. Other than that, I think not much. Ruben, the people who ask question, that one later on you will contact, right?
Yes, yes. I will keep a record of who they are. I will get their address. So once I get the point, then I will courier to them lah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Have their details.
So I think that's all for today. Others, I think they may be not much people in the group already. So I think we may leave.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, you just work out the I think you can just prepare to ship out the challenge coin. So all in all, I think we have to ship out like 15, right?
Yep.
And the last session and 5 for this session. So total
15. So let me know before you send out. Probably I think this MCO, I don't know when we are going back to office.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So maybe
I
I
will
will give
I
you
will
my
contact
home
you lah.
address. I'll give you
I'll
my
contact you.
home address. You send to my home first before you
Sure.
send to our office. Yeah.
Can. I'll contact you, Ruben, on that.
Before you send, I'll give you address to send.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Ruben.
All right.
Thanks, Jason.
Hey, thanks.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye. Bye. Have a nice day. Bye.